So Ryback faces Big Show for the Intercontinental Championship, and if you heard us complain about the Bellas and Paige match before, I'm going to spoil this right now. I'm going to complain about this. I liked this match up until the ending, and even then it was still kind of awkward, but it was kind of cool to see, like, Ryback was taking it to fucking Big Show at the beginning of it. It seemed like it could have even been a squash match. And he pulled an arm breaker out of nowhere, and that was, a little odd. But what ruined this match was just The Miz comes in, interrupts it, disqualification. On a fucking pay-per-view. You don't do disqualifications on a goddamn pay-per-view. I don't care if it's not WrestleMania or SummerSlam. It's Money in the Bank, and, that used to be considered a B pay-per-view. We shouldn't have B pay-per-views. And any pay-per-view, any special event, they're special events. They shouldn't be run like a fucking Monday Night Raw episode. So you don't do a disqualification. And you know what? I know the reason why we had this. Because they didn't want Ryback to beat Big Show to make him look like Big Show's not a threat. They didn't want to have Big Show beat Ryback because then you'd be switching the championship. And they wanted a triple threat, and they realized that Battleground comes before SummerSlam. We're probably going to get a triple threat at Battleground. Or we're going to get Ryback versus The Miz at Battleground. And Big Show will cause a fucking disqualification. We'll get a triple threat at SummerSlam. And it's like, you know what? Don't book your pay-per-views the way that you book Monday Night Raw, where you've got 4 weeks to build up to something and you're just going to stall until you get to the other thing. You don't do that at a pay-per-view.
I couldn't agree more. This one was a nightmare booking. As soon as they announced, okay, the next one is the Intercontinental title match, and Miz's music hits, I said immediately, like, okay, Miz is going to be a commentary. He's going to interfere. It's going to be a DQ, and it's going to lead to a triple threat. And, like, I said that all before he got to the commentary table. Yeah. And it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, it was a DQ. What a train wreck. I mean, the match itself lasted, all of 5 minutes maybe. And it was okay. I didn't think it was anything great. I would have liked to have seen those guys go at least 2 or 3 times as long. Give them at least 10, 15 minutes because those guys can both go. And I was more excited about the face-offs that they had on the Raws leading up to that than I was about that match when it had ended. Having Miz come in there and do the DQ, I was so disappointed. And, it was match after match of disappointment. Like the first 4 matches on the card, I was like, really? This is how this night is going to go? You're going to end that one in a DQ? I mean, I understand, about not wanting to make Big Show look weak, not wanting to switch the title, but they could have done something there. I was really disappointed with the way it ended.
They could have done the triple threat.
Yeah, I was expecting maybe him to do this time. I guess they're just going to stall and do that next time maybe. I don't know.
Because it's like, if you set up the triple threat, I mean, they set up the triple threat immediately on Monday Night Raw.
Right.
You have Miz come out for a title shot. Big Show comes out, punches the Miz, says, I should have gotten the title shot. Next week, you could announce a triple threat and then do it at the pay-per-view. And people would buy it. They wouldn't be like, well, that's too rushed. They've done less and, rushed further than that. But now it's like, I don't know, it kind of seems to me like an equivalent of, if you're going to watch a movie, you build towards the third act. And some movies make the mistake of showing you something that's going to happen in the third act and then backtracking and going through the rest of the movie, but not having the proper pacing to be able to, like, build to it because you know that this is just going to happen and now you're just waiting for it to be done. And that's happening here. Like, I like Ryback, I like Miz, I like Big Show, and I want to see the triple threat with them. But I don't want to see 2 months of building up to the triple threat to them. Like,
hopefully by that time they'll have moved on to something else, but I wouldn't put my faith in that.
What about you, Wego? Is this something that, like, they're doing the same kind of thing as what I'm saying, where you don't want to see this at SummerSlam? You want them to just get it out of the way now?
I'm very conflicted about this whole storyline as a whole. I think Ryback lifting up Big Show for the shell shock should have been the entire point of this match and the story that they built to. But they pissed that away on the go-home episode of Raw, so that's out the window.
Yep.
So you're left in a situation where you don't really have a story for this match. And it showed. These guys did not gel well together in the ring. The match should have been Big Show beats him down on match. Ryback pulls it off somehow. Now, we get to the fuck finish, and it was such an underwhelming fuck finish. I've had run-ins, and for one, I'm in agreement with both of you. I don't believe that you should ever have a disqualification for a title match on a pay-per-view. Just because it sets a bad tone for what a pay-per-view should be. The entire thing is you're enticing people to buy this product because this is where the finality happens. This is where everything gets capped off. But then when you treat it and give it another fuck finish like an episode of Raw, then why are you paying for it?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an argument out there, which some would make, that it benefits a storyline, such as the Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins incident. You can accomplish the same thing with a pinfall or a submission. So, Miz's involvement in this, such an underwhelming disqualification. He just pretty much comes in and taps them both on the head with a microphone and runs off. You should have just done the triple threat match. There was no point in this. Or, I don't know how you get around it, but I don't think it would have hurt to have had... Like, if you didn't want both of these guys to lose, you could have done a draw somehow.
Mm-hmm.
People forget that's an option. You could have had a double countdown.
Yeah, I would have rather preferred a double count out than a disqualification, because at least then it's like they're fighting and they didn't realize that the 10 count happened.
Or
like, they could be brawling on the outside or something, and then you can kind of continue the brawl, and then Miz gets involved, and then it's like we got to separate the three of them, and you know
that would have been a way better finish.
And here's another potential story you've got. You've got two monsters in the ring. Two freakishly large athletes that can beat the piss out of each other. How about they just beat the piss out of each other to the 10 and get both... You know what? The double down where both guys are down in the ring, referee counts to 10.
Yeah, they never do that anymore.
Why don't you do that?
That'd be cool.
You've got two guys believable. And you know what you could do? You could have had a double down earlier where both guys get up, have the trade-off, and then have another double down and it gets to a count out. These are freakishly big guys, and you can do more with this and still make them look strong. I mean, how strong does it look that these guys were that tough, had that much intensity, that they kept in the ring that long to the point they beat the piss out of each other so they couldn't move? Then you can have the Miz come in and pick up the scraps like the little shit that he is.
Yeah, and then they can both be like, all right, well, I kind of respect you, but fuck that little guy. That little pissant.
There's so many other options you could have done. I just pulled that out of my ass. I'm sure there's something better you could have come up with. We're given the time. I did not like this fuck finish. If you're going to do a fuck finish, at least make it entertaining. Just randomly in the middle of the match, Miz comes in, taps them both with the microphone. Fucking awful.
You know what else kind of confuses me about this? There was a report about this whole, they've been doing pay-per-view after pay-per-view. We had Payback and then Elimination Chamber and then Money in the Bank and whatever. And supposedly, of course, you got to take it with a grain of salt, the creative team is happy about that because they don't have to stretch things out. But then you set up a thing like this where you are purposely stretching this out for the bigger amount of time because you had to set up for Money in the Bank and then Battleground, and God forbid they stretch this out to SummerSlam. Nobody is going to give a shit about it at SummerSlam. By that time, we'll have had, 8 weeks, 9 weeks or something of Ryback versus Big Show versus Miz, Miz versus Ryback, tag team thing, 6-man tag matches, run-ins. I don't want to see 8 weeks of that. These guys aren't going to be able to cut promos and do interesting enough things to drag it out that long, especially if you have two, like Money in the Bank and Battleground. If they both end up being messed up finish things, you can't stretch it out that long. And you've got more than enough other people that you can do other things. Like, they could have done this triple threat at Money in the Bank, and at Battleground, Ryback could be facing, I don't know. Shit, you know what? They don't even need to think of somebody that's, viable contender, like King Barrett. Ryback can fight anybody, and if you make it interesting enough, it'll be interesting. You can sell me on Ryback versus Fandango. I don't know why I mentioned Fandango twice tonight, but Fandango is an interesting guy. He's good in the ring. All you got to do is have him come out. He wins some number one contender battle royal or something like that. And suddenly I'm going, they're going to push Fandango? Huh. And I'm more interested. It's not hard. I don't get it at all. I think that it's a huge mistake. I think that they are going to drag this out so long that it's going to fuck Ryback.
Yeah, they had better not stretch this feud all the way to SummerSlam. Who's going to still be interested at that point?
I know that I'm not going to be. And I would guarantee that at that point, people are going to look at Ryback and be like, oh, his Intercontinental title reign sucks. And they'll blame it on him. It's not his fault. He's a big guy. He's got Miz all over him.
That was a good line.
I did like that. Even that was on Monday Night Raw. Wasn't even on the pay-per-view. It's like the best part of this feud so far, and it hasn't been on that. Disappointing. So what do you think they should have done for this match instead? Leave a comment below. If you were supportive of this, fight for it. If you're not, you were in agreement with us, then, continue to complain like we did. We've got a really fun match coming up next. Kevin Owens versus John Cena in Part 8. Stay tuned. We're going to rave about that, I'm sure.